The message you're about to hear will position you to live life to the fullest with actionable insights and strategies. Now, Abraham Owoseni.
Okay, I count it a great privilege to be here, and Zion and Daniel, we've been in conversation around something amazing, which I will be sharing in this session with us, talking about time management. I know for young people at this, special time, um, when you're in college, there's a whole lot of workload to do. Perhaps you're also in virtual learning, and there's just a whole lot to do, and that's in between is not clear about how to manage time. So I'm going to walk us through on that, but I believe in stories. So I'm going to share my story like Zion was asking. I'm going to share my story as I get along. I'm sure you also be able to pick from that, even as I share on this session. I just wanted to make the best of this learning experience, right? Turn down every form of distraction you may have around you. And own this learning, right? Make a note of the actions you want to take from this learning. That's the goal of education. That's the goal of learning, right? If I'm to describe myself in 3 minutes, I will say that well, I'm passionate about young people. I believe young people are the most treasured resource and assets of any country and any nation. And I believe young people will determine the next generation. However, I found that there's a major gap in the training of young people, uh, which makes us not developed holistically, right? I call it a 360-degree build up. UNICEF calls that gap something I named life skills deficiency. And so I'm passionate to see young people who are developed all around, right? So when I saw this session, it was a main interest for me because this is one major life skill that young people need: how to manage time, right? If you want to know if the blood in my vein is really flowing well, anything about human development is it. If it has to do with teaching, training, coaching, and mentoring, that's my forte, right? So as a result of these, I function at the apex as an education specialist, a life coach for young adults, and speaker and trainer on life skills, right? Um, so like what Zion was asking me, so this actually was the bedrock of um, all of my mileage. So it started in an experience I had in April 10, 11, and 12 of 2011, right? I had a discovery of my life purpose, and that gave me a mission to life. I've captioned it in a simple mantra: raising young people and molding minds, right? That has been the fulcrum of everything around me and everything I do. And my simple message to you as a young person today, and this is the message I've carried across the world, is holistic development, like I shared with you. So, for every young person that comes across me, it's my vow to God that they must be developed holistically, right? Not just in their academics alone, not just in their career alone, not just in their spiritual life alone. I call it oral development, awesome development, right? That's the kind of development I'm talking about. And that's the kind of development as a young person you should start to build early on in life. That way you can be sure of great heights, in life, right? So I arrived on the earth on a beautiful Tuesday morning, right, somewhere in Lagos, Nigeria, right? And please don't laugh at my picture, right? And for me, I'm the male amongst many women. Scripture says, "Blessed are you amongst women." That's my story. If you see this picture, you will understand that, right? And but beyond that, for every king there's a queen. I'm grateful to God for the blessing of a queen. Yeah, that is in the person of my wife, and of course in our first son. So in brief, I would say that in 2013, I was conveyed as one of the 1,000 young outstanding Nigerians making a difference. Um, I'm a fellow of the International Youth Foundation, Youth Action Net, SIP fellow. I've been opportune to be a recipient of a number of awards, like the Outstanding Education Support Individual Award. Um, a number of them, right? I don't want to bore you with that, but majorly, like Zion was trying to ask, oh, what of all of these mileage? So I've earned a number of formal certifications and competencies, including a doctorate degree, certifications in architecture and productivity, life coaching, neuroscience, pedagogy, education, name it, right? And all of this has been for me as a field to drive towards my mission. Since 2011, my educational and youth development interventions have improved the developmental outcome of over 12,000 young people. Um, I've also been able to facilitate for various nonprofits, education districts, schools, SMEs, faith-based organizations that work with young people, solving their issues around quality education, learning environment, capacity building, and life skills development. Um, you can see some of my publications, books, conference materials, training podcasts have been of great help to many young people, like you, across Africa, North America, Asia, and Europe at the time, right? So by now you do know that I love teaching, right? But if I'm not speaking, then I'm thinking, right? But again, if I'm not thinking, most times I'm inking, and by inking I mean writing. So this was one of my first books I wrote in 2015 called The Career Leader. Um, one of my friends said if everybody, when he read the book, he said if everybody knew the meaning of the word career as shared in that book, he said no one would be unemployed. Jimmy Terry also says that Abraham's book, The Career Leader, is a must read for anybody that wants to improve their career. And so these are some of my experience and my mileage. Because if I must be able to do all of these, it means I must be able to manage time. Most people have said, "Oh, I'm an empathetic teacher, I'm a dynamic leader, I'm an amazing coach, inspiring," and all of those words, right? In 2013, I founded Young Breeze. Young Breeze is a faith-based, youth-focused organization raising a crop of young people who are well-bred and holistically developed, right? And for me, one of my life's dream and vision is 40 CYDCs before 40, right? You may ask, what is CYDC? CYDC is what I call Children and Youth Development Center, right? So this is an example of prototype by design sometimes in 2013, right? So far, we have about three centers, one in Lagos State, Nigeria, one in Ogun State, and another third out of school center we're working on. That is my goal, right? Of course, I'm not all of that serious. So when I'm not doing all of the serious work, I love cycling, right? I'm a street biker, right? And I thought that was a good concept. So that was a concept I used for my pre-wedding shoot. What do you think? Did it come out well? Right. In all of this, what drives me is impact and transformation. And so when I see messages of transformation, messages of impact, it forces me to do more. And I'm grateful to God for the opportunity to make impact in the lives of people. And I hope that in this session, I can be of service to you as well. Right. So if I want to ask you, what if I show you the secrets of time management? Perhaps you've not read in a book, or you've not seen before, you've not watched before, or you've not even had that perspective before. Are you interested in that? Please put in the chat box. Let me know how many people are interested in this secret. How many people are interested in this secret? You want this secret? You want me to share it in this secret? Put in the chat box. Let me know how many people want me to share this secret. Let me know if you want. Just put yes in the chat box. Let me just put yes. I can see Manuel say interested. Gonna say yes. Promise say yes. I can't wait. Thank you, Daniel, for that. So let's dive into this. So I want to ask you, the first question I want to ask you is this. Imagine you have been in a room for 24 hours without access to the phone, without access to the internet, and without access to time. How would that experience be? 24 hours, that's a whole day, right? Imagine you are in the room. What will happen? Someone describe your experience. Let me know in the chat. You are in a room for 24 hours. That's virtually like a whole day, right? You don't have access to the phone. You don't have access to internet, and you don't have access to time. There's no wall clock. There's nothing to show you what the time is all through the 24 hours. What word would you use to describe that experience for you? What we used to describe that day? I mean, how will you measure? Someone says it's like a prison. Exactly. I like that. Someone said that's death. I mean, you can imagine there is no time. It will really be an anxious day. Exactly. Thank you, Ken, for that. Right. Awesome. Now, watch this now. So, if that is the case, the reason why you'll be anxious, the reason why it will be like death, the reason why it will be like a prison is because we are created as time conscious beings. Think about it. We are created as time conscious beings. So sometimes you have you experienced this before? You are walking across, or maybe you don't have a wristwatch with you, and you just quickly ask someone, please, what's it by your time? Right? You've done that over time. Maybe you want to even fill a form, or you want to. You're just always conscious of time. You wake up. Why is it that when you wake up, you just want to know what the time is? You want to know whether it was 5 a.m. or it was 5:30 or it was 6:30. Why is that conscious? It's because we are created as time conscious beings. And amongst the creations God made, humans are as conscious to time as this. Animals are not conscious to time, right? But God did it such a way that we are most conscious and sensitive to time, right? Now, so this creates a form of anxiety in us, and we are always in a haste to achieve a goal, right? We are hurrying, we are moving. And so, like this year, many people are, I mean, are already, eating the road, running. I must do this. I must get this. This is the goal I want. This is the result I want in my academics. This is what I mean. We are in a haste to do that because we are time conscious being. But the question is, what goals have you set for yourself? What goals have you set for yourself, right? I'm going to show you a nexus that exists between time management and goals as we get along. So, for example, perhaps you've set some academic goals for yourself, or you've set some career goals, or you've set some spiritual goals, financial goals, as the case may be. What goals have you set for yourself, right? I know a number of persons have done some. Some call it whatever name. Many people have said, "Well, this is what I want. This is the outcome I desire," and all of those good things we want. What goals have you set for yourself? The main question we're answering this on this call is simple. How can I manage my time so that I can achieve those goals? That's the main question we are asking. And so we're saying that, yes, I've set these goals already. And now, how do I manage my time to achieve those goals, right? And so I'm talking to a set of people who have not just desired a particular thing. They've actually articulated what they desire, right? But they are still finding it difficult to manage time in achieving those goals. That's the main question, right? So I've also experienced all of the things perhaps you might be experiencing. Maybe you are whatever level you are in college, right? Here was I. This was how I looked, right, when I was fresh into school, right? This was actually on my matriculation day. Yeah, that was me with my mom, right? And I was naive. I mean. I didn't know left from right as I should, right? I was this was an experience that was the first time to have, right? I was going to start lectures. I was going to start independent living. And gradually I was getting overwhelmed, right? I was trying to say, okay, assignments were coming from left and right. How do I focus on this? How do I focus on that? And it was getting difficult and so tasking, right? So I can really understand what shoes you are in, right? But again, it's the question we're asking and we're answering today is, how do I manage my time across all of my goals, right? And I remember an experience I had sometimes back, some years back. I was at a funeral service, and the pastor shared some things, four key things that it's been difficult for me to forget over time, right? One of the things he said, number one, life is measured by time, right? Life is measured by time. I want to note that keyword. Life is measured by time. He went on saying the next thing, that the impact of life is service, right? The impact of life is service. The third thing he said was that the value of life is brought out by the application of wisdom, right? And of course, the last thing he said that struck with me was that the greatest content of any life is Christ. Now, all of these things are amazing, but the first one is my point of emphasis on this call. Life is measured by time. And this is something you've also experienced, perhaps in conversation with people either older than you, or and you're just talking about somebody perhaps who has gone beyond, and in describing the experience and the memory you had with that person, you begin to use what's like, oh, in his lifetime, in her lifetime, she did this, he did that, right? So the implication of that is you are literally weighing how the person managed time by how the person lived. And so we it's like an inseparable twin. Time is on the flip side of the coin. On the other side is life, right? And this experience was so touching for me, understanding the value of time. And events like this help us to recall that, oh, we will not always be here, right? And so how do we measure our life is by how we make use of our time, right? And so Let me put this in context. So what is time? Is time the wall clock? Is time the alarm I have on my phone? Is what is time exactly? Right? What is time exactly? So the dictionary defines in a simple way, and this is just what I wanted to get. This will give you the best foundation to how to manage time. To time means to be in charge. Time management means to be in charge, right? And what else? It means you are managing something, right? And I like this perspective. Look at this one. It's time management is to give direction. You give direction. You undo something effectively. That's time management, right? You are in charge. It's the clock is not directing you. You are directing the clock, right? And so you are giving direction to the clock. It's not what other people are saying. I'm going to share about that shortly. It's you giving direction to time. That's the exact focus about time management. And I tried doing an illustration, and I wanted to look at this quickly. This is amazing. I tried just opposing time and money together, right? And it dawned on me that they are both a means of exchange. So, for example, time is a resource for exchange, right? Do you agree? Just like money is a resource for exchange, right? So you want to make a purchase, you're going to make use of time. The only difference, unlike money, is that everyone has equal amount of time. Did you see that now? Right. So time is like money, right? Both of them are both means of exchange, resources we use to exchange for value. The only difference for time, unlike money, is that everybody has equal amount of time. So if we check all of our bank accounts now, we all have differing levels of balance to on our, of funds on our accounts, right? And so we don't have equal with regards to that. But for time, everyone has equal amount of time, right? And that's a a flat playing field. And so how then can we manage time if we have equal amount of time? So, for example, when you want to make a purchase in money, you exchange money for value, right? So either you're making a purchase of a product or a service, and so you give that resource, and then you get it exchanged. Now, in time, guess what you exchange it with? You exchange it for your life, right? I mean, this is very striking, and it's something that may be so um shocking to absorb, but that's the truth. So you want to get an exchange for a product, a value, you give them money. But when you're talking about time, you are exchanging it literally for your life. And so if you go back to where we started from, all we are saying is that time is a measure of our life, right? Time is a measure of life. Now, I want to say something about this. I call it the fluidity of time. Although we have equal amount of time, we don't make equal use of it, right? And so if you're very good in mathematics, this is an equation that is not balanced, because if everybody has equal amount of something, how come we're not making equal use of it, right? And so this is not equals to this. What is the missing gap? Why is that so? Think about it. Why is that so? Why is that so? This is a question that, if you're able to answer, you will be able to manage, make and own the ownership of your time, leaving it from the clock, you taking the ownership of your time, right? Now, so some people is like, time is like, it can be likened to water, right? And water moves. Water is always moving, flowing, but you can either waste the water, or you can fetch the water, sort of invest in the water, sort of storing the water to be used another time. And the bit about time is that you can't bribe time. And so, you can't stop the hand of the clock in your house and it's stopped everywhere in the world. No, right? So it's that resource and that commodity that is just equal for everybody, irrespective of your color, your height, your weight, your complexion, your location, your geography, name it, right? And so we must be careful, because time flows. If you are not careful, it flows away before you recognize it. That's the fluidity of time. It's like water, it's always flowing. So, for example, you decided to be on this call right now, right? So, what happened before this time? You literally said to yourself, hey, time, don't flow past me. I'm going to hold you right now. I'm grabbing you. Come in. And you literally held it down. It's just like what they call this game now, a tug of war. You held it and say, "Hey, you're not going anywhere. You're going to stay in here. I'm getting a lot of value from this session." That's the fluidity of time, right? And I wanted to note this and take this as an anchor going forward in your journey in life, that time is more valuable than money. You can get more money, but you cannot get more time, right? So you literally see that time is more valuable than money, and you place more value on time because time is your life, right? Now let me share on what I call the intentionality of time. Now I'm gradually getting to a point where I'm going to unveil to you a framework. Is a model I designed that will help you, with all I've shared, to begin to architecture your time and direct it, design your time, and use it in the direction you desire, right? Now, this is it. The highest, I said it this way, the highest hour of time is not 24 hours, it's lifetime hours, right? And so, yes, we have 24 hours in a day, we have 7 days a week, and all of those stats. But the highest of time is not even in the 24 hours we have in a day, but is in your entire lifetime. That's the highest value of time you have. Now, so I want to ask you, what's your plan really? This is, I think we need to talk about this really. Growing up, maybe when I got into college, I didn't have much experience or someone to guide me and say, Abraham, what is it? How do you want to plan your time? What are you going to do this one morning? What are you going to do by tomorrow? I mean, nobody was going to guide you to do all that. I mean, you just fell on it, and whatever way it worked, you just, took yourself out of it. What's your plan? I want to ask you right now, what's your plan? So if you x-ray today so far, what have you done today? Think about it. If you can, someone help me put in the chat box. Mention one, two striking projects, striking activity that you actually plan to do. When today began, that you have executed. Anybody like to put in the chat? Anybody? Let me see. Put in the chat. Let me see. One striking activity or a project you actually set out to achieve today that you have achieved. Anybody? So most times, what happens is that we are not we someone said study a course, right? Great. So someone said I completed some assignments. Fantastic. Thank you, Chidera, for that. And so most times what happens is that when we have not planned the day, right, we literally forget, or we are not conscious of exact thing we achieved, right? And so I'm not talking about the generic things of sleeping, eating, waking. That's by default most times, right? I mean, you were going to eat, you were going to have your bath. I'm not talking about that. Those are generic parts of your day. And so, but you must have a more concrete plan. Do you just want to wake up, sleep, eat, read, sleep? What kind of routine do you want your life to be about? Now, I'm going to show you an antidote that will give you more meaning to life. So in my experience, what happened was that I used to say that my senses gave me a first class, but my essence gave me more meaning to life, right? And so perhaps you're in school right now. Yes, you're doing great work. You're doing fantastic in your academics. That's great. I mean, it's awesome. It's a leverage. But what's going to give you more meaning to life, right? And even to your time, because time is life, will not be your certificate or the degree you get from school, will be what I call your essence, right? I'm going to show you that in a bit. So, this is what God did. God has given to every human, just as required, the amount of time to fulfill his purpose on earth. That's what God did. It's an amazing thing. And so sometimes a person dies at an age, and we as humans will feel so bad that, oh wow, this person died young or died old or died early. I mean, that's relative to us because we were not the one that gave the time in the first place, right? But what God did is that God has given to every human, listen to this, watch this, just as required, the amount of time to fulfill his purpose on earth. And so most times when you want to gain more meaning to life, you want to gain more meaning to your time beyond the generic things of waking and sleeping and eating, God's purpose is what actually unveils and gives more meaning and essence to your life beyond using your senses, right? So, for example, you notice man is a tripartite being, he's a spirit, he has a soul, he has a body. Now, so all of your decision about your time and your life should not just be on your soul realm because and your body realm because you have a brain and you have a will. No, there is more to that equation that actually it confers more meaning to life. And that's the realm I shared with you. And that was the encounter I had in April 10, 11, and 12, like I shared with you earlier. Right. And if you're able to walk around that, I'm going to share with you a resource, perhaps when I'm done, that will help you get started on that. That's the biggest route to gaining control of time and putting meaning to your life and indirectly to your time. But there's this big illusion about time. It's a very big illusion. People say, well, there is time. That's a big illusion, right? I mean, there's time. So, for example, I recall today when it was 2 p.m. Right? Look at the time right now. It's not waiting for anybody. I mean, right? It's not waiting. It's moving. It's moving. Sometimes you have you experienced this before? Sometimes you are maybe you are indoors all through the day and you just feel the day has been slow. Anybody experienced that before? Put a yes in the chat. You just feel that the day has been slow. You just check the time and you're expecting that the time should have been faster, but it's slow. And then like people say, a typical month like January, I mean, people say it's slow, it's not fast. I mean, all of that, all of that is a game of the mind, and you find that those who have more meaning to time, when you look into it deeply, they have more meaning to life. Let me say that again. When you look into deep into it, those who have more meaning for time, when you look into it, they have more meaning for life. And getting more meaning to life is finding the meaning embedded in God's purpose for your life, right? Because remember what I shared, God gave you just about the required time you need to fulfill his mission on earth. Now, moving on, there is something special about seasons, and I'm going to relate this to academics. I'm going to use that as a case study, right? So, somewhere in scriptures talks about seasons, and to everything there is a season, a time to every purpose. Now, look at this, connects what I shared earlier on. There is time to every purpose, right? There is time T for every purpose under the heaven, right? Now, time is constant, but there is also what we call season. What is season? Right? Let me share with you some more on that. Season is a lump sum of time. It's that simple. So, for example, a couple of years can be a season, right? And just like we have in meteorology, we talk about different seasons in the year. A couple of months can make up a season, right? A couple of weeks can make up a season. The point I'm bringing is that as you get along, even in your journey in life, you need to be able to understand what season you are in per time. You will go through several seasons, right? But you need to be able to define and understand the season you are in, right? The reason is this. So let me give an example. There is a time to be born. There is a time to die, right? Which we don't like to hear. There is a time to plant. There is a time to pluck. Now, the meaning of all of this is to tell you that there is a season for everything. So, for example, now perhaps a number of you right now, perhaps you're in the university, you're in having your tertiary education. That's a season. All you're doing is that you are planting at this time. Now, if you don't understand, if a person does not understand this, the meaning is that such a person will not be able to manage time. Look, let me say it again so you get it. At every point, even along your journey in life, you will go through seasons. But you need to understand the season you are in so you can maximize it. I used to say, for example, that you will not always be in school. Schooling is for a season, but it has a reason, right? So I found from my experience, both with colleagues and from the value chain as an educator, that most people who make the best of schooling actually have a stronger motivation to schooling in the first place, right? And so you find that most those struggling, I mean, with academic challenges, emotional challenges, social challenges, and all of that, when you look at the bottom line, it was a flimsy motivation that brought them to school. Now, so if you understand the season you are in right now, and this season is to plant, what are you planting? You are planting the foundation of your career. The meaning is that if you are managing your time, anything that is not going to benefit this season will not come into play. Are you seeing that now? Understanding season. If I understand that, hey, Abraham, this season is for you to build capacity, then I will know that, oh, this one, X, Y offer, this opportunity may not be needed now. You see what I'm saying? Is an understanding of seasons, right? So, some persons tell me that, oh, Mr. Abraham, I lost my focus. I came in year one. I was so passionate. I was so determined. Actually, my parents, I mean, and name it, that story, you know how that story goes now. Stories that touch. Now, but what happened along the way? They failed to recognize the season, right? And other things, distractors will always come. I mean, distractors will always come. But take this as we get along, that there will always be several seasons in life. But you need to be able to understand the season you are in so that you will know what best you need to maximize in that time. You may not be able to do every other thing. You may only be able to do the things that pertain to that season. Is always for a while. Schooling is not forever. For example, like I shared, schooling is for a season, but it has a reason, right? Don't forget that. Now, there is a, in line with what I shared now, you need to take on a virtue, because since you can have everything you want at the time you want it, what can you do? Take on a virtue of patience. Growing up, I used to have this mindset, and I just tell my dad I need this now. And when I don't get it immediately, I start getting furious. And it went on for a while, but he started teaching me that, hey, you may not always get what you want immediately at the time you want it. Right, you must exercise patience, right? But as I grew up, I became more mature to understand the virtue of patience, right? You may not always have everything you want at the time you want it. That's where you begin to talk about the fact that the scar of every star is sacrifice. And so there are various seasons of my life I've had to sacrifice some things, right? I mean, from the flimsy ones to the major ones. Maybe you have to sacrifice your dinner at a season of your life, right? You need to exercise. That's the virtue you need to take on. Or perhaps you have to exercise, or you're sacrificing your allowance just to invest in something, right? That's a season. Don't worry, right? It's going to pay off. That's a season. You've recognized that season, and you are paying the sacrifice. That's a season. Whatever it is you're sacrificing, I'm here to share with you that don't be deterred, don't be worried, right? That season will soon pay off, right? Because you are doing it with a reason, right? Now, this is the time management model I want to share with you, and then we just tie this up. This is the crux of what I'm sharing with you, right? I simply called it the CPD model, right? And it's simple, right? Now, let me walk you through with this model. The first part of this model is what I call choices, right? If you're finding this valuable, let me know in the chat box. This is value. Put it in the chat box. This is value, right? Let me know if I should share this model or I should just take it home, right? Let me know if you want me to continue on this. Finding this valuable, let me know this is value, right? Let me know if you awesome. Ugonna says this is value, right? Who else is finding this valuable? Zion, this is value. Awesome. Who else? Please flood the chat box. Flood the chat box. Let's know how you find this valuable, right? Now, so in this time management model, the first part, as you see there, is what I call choices, right? The second part is what I call priorities. Now, follow through on this, and I want to make a note of this. The third part of this model is what I call decisions. So, C moves to P, P moves to D. That's what I call the CPD, right? Choices, priorities, and decisions. Now, let's look at each one carefully, right? And then we're going to apply the lessons to our personal lives and our journey, right? Now, you need to choose because there are alternatives. Did you get that? You need to choose because there are alternatives. These alternatives are not just mere alternatives, they are containing alternatives, right? I mean, that's the reason why there are choices in the first place. If there were no alternatives, we wouldn't need to choose anything. The challenge of choice is that they are containing alternatives. And most times, the issue is not about managing our time, the issue is about making the right choice. Did you get that? The issue most times is not even about managing it's not about managing time. It's about making the right choice. And most times we are not sure what choice to make. So, for example, a friend dashes to your room and says, "Hey, oh, let's go to this place, right? It's on Saturday. Tomorrow we're going to do this. It's going to be fun. You're going to enjoy it. It's going to be mad, and all of those stuff." That's an alternative you have for tomorrow. Another person comes and say, "Hey, guy, you don't want miss this one. There's a match going on. This, do you know your guys now? This is your club. And you know all of that. That's another alternative." Another person comes and gives you and so literally with all of the things you have planned already, you have several alternatives, and you have to choose. The beginning of making the best use of your time is making the choice, right? And you can't be in the middle. You just have to make a choice. How do you make a choice? This brings me to what the experience Joshua had in scripture. And Joshua was telling the people, guys, well, you guys choose for yourself. It's your now, you sabi whatever you want. If you feel that it's unacceptable in your sight to serve God, no problem, go enjoy. Man has a free will. So because of that, most people say, "Well, Mr. Abraham, I'm an adult, I'm 18, I'm 17, I'm 20, I'm 25." no problem. You have a choice. And that's the beauty about how God works with us. God does not impose something on us, but He gives you the choice to choose, right? And He was telling them that day, hey, well, these are the alternatives. Do you want, if you say this one is not okay, which one do you want to follow? But He ended by saying, for me, as for me. The question I want to tell you, or the question, what I want to put to you right now is that your choice is personal, right? Your choice is personal. And so when you have all of those contending alternatives, you are still the final point of call to make the choice. And that choice has no business with any other person. You are the one to make the choice. Do you know why? The outcome of every choice will still be borne by you. When you want to know if you're making the right choice, do you know what you do? Check the outcome. Look at the outcome. The outcome is the end result. You begin with the end in mind, right? So if, I'm not sure, Mr. Abraham, what do I choose? Currently now, this is what I'm experiencing. I know I'm in the season of my schooling, but currently now, there are about three guys that are disturbing me. I mean, and this is what I'm experiencing, this and that. Fantastic. You have the choice to make. What do you think is what do you are making a choice because your choice is personal. You found your season, right? But you finding contending alternatives, and these alternatives are not looking for your money. Guess what they're looking for? They're looking for your time, and indirectly they are looking for your life, because your time is your life. You see that now? This is amazing, right? And so your choice is personal, right? um, when you're able to navigate the choices based on the outcome in alignment to the goal you have, I mean, it's as simple as that. So, for example, I'm going to share that around decision. You're thinking about the fact that, okay, what do I do? I remember some days, some years back, many years when I was in college. Um, we are done with exams, and you just had this week where you could just play around and have fun. And I was just going about to do some study, and the guy stopped me along the way and said, hey, where are you going to? I mean, I was started, and he just stopped me on the way. I said, yeah, I'm going to this place, right? I mean, I just want to do some study and all that. And he was surprised. What are you going to do? We've just finished exam last week. You should flex this week, right? I mean, I just gave him a side face, and I just walked away, right? Now, so that you find that in that situation, for example, there were many alternatives. So persons are choosing their various made their decisions. Some said, well, this week I'm just going to play PS4. Some have said, well, this week I'm just going to have fun, I'm just going to sleep. Some have said, this week I'm just going to, I mean, and everybody made a choice, because choice is personal. The mistake most times is I find with young people is that you are trying to make your choice copying another person, but choices are unique based on your destination. Choices are unique based on your outcome. Choices are unique based on your goals. So I'm looking at my goals for February, and I'm saying, Abraham, what should I do this month? It's based on my goal. It's not relative to any other person. You see that now? You need to be able to, that your maturity is in the quality of your choices. You graduate to this point where I'm talking about redefining your priorities. This is the P part of that model, CPD. In P, what you're simply doing is that you're defining your priorities. And now, so because you have many alternatives, you need to know which one is the most important and the most urgent. There are many alternatives, right? So because of these many alternatives, you're asking yourself, which one should I do now? That's the context of priority. And to make it easier, there's the time matrix. This is one major matrix that I've always applied personally, and I've also taught other people, right? And it's just like you're plotting a graph, right? You have these x-axis and you have these y-axis, right? On the x-axis, you see urgent and non-urgent. On the y-axis, you see important and non-important. So in picture it this way, every time you have an alternative contending for your choice, contending for your time, ask yourself, where in this quadrant does it fall into? That's the question you're asking yourself. I have several alternatives. No problem. There will always be several alternatives. I get several alternatives every day. You also have several alternatives, and there's no day to stop. I used to say to some young people, in college, that your schedule will not reduce from what it is today. The meaning of that is that your alternatives will not reduce from what it is today. There will be several alternatives that will contend from your time. Even as you get out of school, you get into a workplace, you get into building a career, you get into building your family. There will be a lot of alternatives. And so you're asking yourself, there are four quadrants right here. Where does this alternative fall into? right? Where does this alternative fall into? So if you plot this or this graph carefully, you'll find that when you look at Q1, the first quadrant is what they call, when you look at it, that is a high level of importance right there. And then when you look at it, it's also is a low level, is a high level rather of urgency. You look at Q2. Q2, well, it's not really that urgent, and then but it's quite important, right? You look at Q3. Q3, well, not so important, but it's quite urgent. Q4, well, it's not urgent, it's not important. Now, whenever you have an alternative that is not urgent and is not important, what do? You decline it. What do? You simply say no. I mean, that's one major life skill you need to also master, learning to say no. You don't need to say no by slamming the person and say, hey, no. No, you don't need to do that, right? It's simply by doing it with a whole lot of emotional maturity and doing it with a whole lot of empathy that, oh, wow, I would have really loved to do this, but I'm just so sorry I won't be able to. How do you see that? That sounds mature, right? Now, so you have to decline at some point for some of those things, not important and not urgent. Or perhaps you want to delegate it to someone else, maybe, right? And sometimes it's pretty a little urgent, but it's not important. So, for example, maybe yes, you know you are hungry, right? I mean, you should eat soon, and it's getting urgent because every part of your physiology is saying that and speaking that language. But is it the most important thing for you to do? Perhaps maybe you're having examination at that point, or you're going for an interview, and you're just trying to manage your time through before you get on transit, or as the case may be. What do you do also at that point, right? Which one do you take first? So sometimes something is very urgent, but it's not as very important, or you get a distress call, right? What do you do? It's urgent, but it's not important. What do you do? Right? If it's urgent, sometimes you can delegate it, or sometimes you can automate it. Maybe you just write in your schedule. You see, most times I'm also guilty of this. Sometimes I'm working on something, right? And I get something, I get another alternative that comes, and most times I'm almost distracted to start doing that alternative. But here is what the time matrix is saying. It say write that alternative down. Just note it down, and note down when you're going to do it. Automate it, put it in your diary, write it in your calendar, and just put an alarm that will give you a reminder when it's time to do it. That's automating it. Or if you can delegate it, right? So you see something around not urgent and also important right now. So what I wanted to do much more is I wanted to study this framework some more. You could do more research, just go online, check on the time matrix. And the point we are bringing from this is that what you should do, the alternative you should pick at every point in time should be the alternative that is most urgent and most important, right? That should be the alternative you pick. And that also works in line with other preceding thoughts we've shared, knowing your season and aligning it with your goal. Now, I'm going to begin to wrap up some thoughts, and I'm going to share the last part of this framework is taking decision. That's the D part of this model, decisions. Wow, you are your decisions. I want you to say that to yourself wherever you are right now. Say it aloud. I am my decision. I am my decision, right? This is the most difficult part most times. Yes, you made a choice. Yes, you have defined your priority, but sometimes to take the action is even most very difficult, right? Yes, you have said no to this, but take the action now. Start doing what you have decided to do. You need to take that decision, right? I mean, and so inaction or over analysis will lead to paralysis and all of those. You know that already. Now, if someone said the bad news is that time flies, is a bad news, but there's a good news. You want to hear that? You are the pilot. Wow, that's amazing. You are the pilot. Yeah, it flies. It's not going to wait for anybody. You can't bribe it. You can't coerce it. It's not going to give favoritism to anybody. You are the pilot. You are the pilot. Say to yourself, I am the pilot, right? And so, if you are the pilot, what will a pilot do? A pilot will define the flight map. A pilot will take all of the time in preparing, right? So, you go through this model and you're taking time to make your choices, define the alternative. Which one is the priority for me? What is the most urgent and most important? So, every single day, or maybe the night before, or whatever the case may be that suits your schedule, that you're planning a new day, you're planning a new week, you're planning a new month. Amongst all of the alternatives, you are weighing them across these metrics and these benchmarks that we just shared. Now, I'm closing with this case study. So I just want to simulate this. Imagine perhaps there's someone on this call, And maybe you have an academic goal. Your academic goal is simple. You want to you just you said that this is my goal, right? I'm going to give you a link to one of my sessions on goal setting that will help in that. But in that session, I showed how you should map your goal, mold your goal, and move your goal and all that. So this is an example of how you could write your goal. So this person said, I just checked my result, and I'm excited to have achieved a 4.6 GPA this semester. That was someone's goal. I just checked my result and I'm excited to have achieved a 4.6 GPA this semester. Amidst the lockdown, amidst the online school, amidst the blended learning, amidst the overwhelming situation, I have to take care of my siblings at home, I have to do this. I just checked my result. Is that you? Who is claiming this goal? Let me know. If it's you put it here, this is me. Maybe I thought about you already. Now, so if this is the goal, how can you advise this person? I want to ask someone, right? If you are to advise this person right now, how will you advise this person to set his goal or a goal, and how will you advise this person to manage his or her time? Okay, someone Daniel just said, well, read mindfully. Well, that's deep, Daniel. Awesome. Thank you for that, Daniel. Read mindfully. Okay, let's keep it coming. Let's keep it coming. Right. Now, Daniel, what is that? Is that a decision or a priority? Put it in context of the CPD model. Right. Thank you for that. What would you advise this guy to do? I mean, and this is just an example. You could take any of your goals, right? But you are now breaking your goals down into um, the how you can manage your time, because there's it's just like it's like a coin. On the other side, you see the time. On the other side, you see the goals, right? So they're almost inseparable, right? And now let me just give some ideas I also thought about for this person. One, I'm going to tell this person, if this person has said, well, this is my goal. One of the things I'm going to tell this person is that I'm going to ask this person to know why he or she is actually in school in the first place, right? The reason why this is important is that this goal can fall off along the semester, but it's the motivation of the student that will keep this goal afloat, right? So why are you actually in school? Why do you want to get a 4.6 GPA in the first place? Your motive must be right, must be well aligned, right? Okay, yes, you said, well, I want to build a career in this field, and this is going to actually prepare me to actually be a great career leader in this field. And getting IGP of 4.6 this semester will really help me towards my long term vision of actually finishing with a first class degree in this program. That makes a good sense, right? And what do you think? Of course, like we said, schooling is for a reason, a season with a reason. If this person has defined the motivation and is well hooked, the next thing is now following the CPD model to create a routine. Now, this is one part I'm just sharing with you, and I want you to note it as well. The secret is in the routine. I'm going to say that again. The secret is in the routine, right? So the now, so if I recall back, memory lane, using my example, I remember when I was in primary school, uh, yeah, primary school. I actually had there were times I was actually almost the last in class, and it appeared I was not doing well in school, right? There was actually even a time my teacher then had written in my report card that Abraham needs more attention at home, right? And so um, gradually, as I got to primary four, and I got to this, junior high school, I started seeing the people who were doing well in school, and when I moved close to them, one of the things I found was that they had a routine, right? Um, whether it's a routine of a time to read, or a routine of a time to think, or a routine of a time to sleep, so that they are refreshed, right? I mean, they don't just copy the bad wagon. Their routine was unique. Even when others were reading for exam, they were not reading again at that time, and they just had this unique routine. And I started learning that, and that helped me in my own journey. By my third year in junior high, I was first in class in both first time. Got onto senior high, and of course into college and the university. So when you are breaking down the routine, you are asking yourself, what must I be doing daily, weekly? And so this is what you can distill into what I call a to-do list, right? And I always advise have a journal. Yes, it's good you might have a device and all that, but it may not always be that frequent for you to when you write your goals down your to-dos down, it gives you that flexibility to actually scribble it and design it, unlike just typing it. So most times I prefer writing, although I do typing as well. I do blended um, approach for both, but I have a journal, right? I mean, most times, sometimes I have leaflets of papers around. So when I'm done with that goal, I just squeeze it to show that I'm actually done with it and throw it away. So I could just use a leaflet in a day, and I'm doing all of my thought, my scribblings, and all of that into it. Now, so you need a journal that way, where you can actually define what will be your routine for that day, right? So beyond your typical routine, what are the unique projects you want to do that day? One of the ways what I do is that most times, so I ask myself what three projects should be achieved today, or maybe what two projects, or maybe yours could be one. What key projects should be achieved today? The idea is that there will still be other things that will puncture your time in the course of a day. Let's assume 24 hours. There will still be other things that will puncture your day, but you have decided yourself that in this day I will achieve this goal. This is my key project. Either it's a one project or two or three, as the case may be. Once you have defined that, it gives a circumference around your time, such that even when distractors come, you have already defined what you're doing, right? So they can't puncture it. And even when an alternative comes that is beyond your control, is permissible, because you have already defined that project you want to do. So by the time you're evaluating your day at the end of the day, or whatever time you're evaluating your day, you have this confidence and esteem because you've achieved your key project. So it may not even be many, it may not be 10, just be one or two key projects. Like I shared earlier on, and some person said on the call, Daniel said, study a course. Someone else said, maintain the server and all of that. What is that key project you want to achieve? Just pick one or two, right? And the confidence will grow as you begin to achieve your to-dos per day. You find your confidence growing. And so streamline it to 1 to 3 projects you want to pick per day. And so you literally infuse that in your typical routine for that day. So you have a particular time you wake. You don't just wake anytime, irrespective of when you go to bed. You even have a time you go to bed. The secret is in the routine. You have a time you actually spend time to think. You have a time you read. You have a time you communicate with your spirit to God. You have a time you call your relatives. You have a time you speak to your parents. You don't just live carelessly, and you are that intentional. I remember I was discussing with some young folks someday, and they say, "Sir, why are you so intentional?" That is what I learned from routine, and from finding more meaning to life. You can be that intentional about life, right? And that will help you to achieve what I begin to call harmony. But like I said, dovetail everything from the routine, embed it with your to do. Pick just 1 to 3 key projects for that day. Don't get encumbered with a whole lot of stuff. And then even when other things come either beyond your control, you can still be able to accommodate within your time. But in all of it, whatever you're accommodating, you are looking at it, is in line with my goal, right? Is it an outcome I want? Someone says, well, let's go to this party. Great. Is it an outcome you want? If it's an outcome you want, you choose. The choice is yours. It's personal. Remember that. You're asking yourself, is it a top priority? If it is, no problem, right? Great. If you find it very important and urgent, then you make the decision. You make the decision and you get started, right? This is amazing. I think I'm just going to wrap it up here and open the floor for questions, right? So I'm going to pass over to Zion shortly. But again, I'm going to remind you by saying that your activities are going to be unique, right, in alignment to your defined goals. And the secret is in the routine. The secret is in the routine, right? So thank you guys. I'm just going to open the floor for if you have questions, please either you put in chat, but I know Zion will coordinate us on that. Thank you guys. So once you share your feedback with me from this session, once you submit, you see the link to that video resource. So I hope you find that valuable. But if you do need more, coaching session, clarification, just shoot me a mail on that address, and I'll make sure I attend to you as I get available.
Thank you very much for this session, sir. We are very grateful. God bless you for honoring our invitation.
Mr. Abraham, thank you again for coming.
You have gained insights and strategies to live life purposefully. Now is the time to take actions in the direction of your learnings. For more products, bookings, and inquiries, please visit www.abrahamowoseni.com.